Love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. Okay, I'll stop singing, but I'm paraphrasing Frank Sinatra. Researchers say there is science behind the coupling and even health benefits as well. On this Valentine's Day weekend, it is an appropriate topic indeed. Let's say hello to Faye Nolman, an ordained minister at Healing Ministry, and she's also a life coach. Fila Antwine, a personal development strategist, life coach, and author as well. And Deb Castaldo, author of Relationship Reboot, Tech Support for Love. And joining us live via Skype is Jimmy Tulsak, author of Lakeside and Tide. Joining us live via our DC connection is Esther Boykin, CEO of GTA Therapists and a relationship expert as well. Okay, Fila, I will start with you. 2016, love, marriage, the hookup culture. It's kind of a strange time to be in love and find love, right?
It's strange for us who don't come from this time, but I think that it's really something that resonates with the youth of this generation. So we're living in the technological age, and it's much easier to find love, to find marriage, to find your way to happiness through social media, the internet, and all of these outlets that they have now.
Okay, so the tools are out there. Faye, do these tools help or hurt? Are they making people couple for a longer period of time, or are you finding people moving on from partner to partner because of the plentiful tools are out there to meet people?
I find more of the ADD effect, where people are so used to the video, the gaming, the instant gratification, that they feel like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, I'll just get divorced and move on to the next one.
Right.
The permanency, the long-term commitment is not as prevalent as it was in, let's say, my parents' generation.
Now, is that a generational thing, Deb? Is it just history that we're not going to have couples who are married 20, 40, 50, 60 years? In fact, people will be married multiple times and nobody will blink an eyeball at it?
Well, actually, because the divorce epidemic has been going on for about a half century, really. As you just said, there is really a different perspective on commitment. I think people think relationships can be thrown away and easily replaced. And the problem is that people come back with new partners and they have the same exact problems as they had in the first marriage.
And I would have to say part of the problem, Deb, and I will toss this out there to one of our guests joining us via Skype, Jimmy, is that society has changed in that nothing is shameful anymore. I remember growing up, the biggest disgrace that could possibly happen to a person was to get divorced. It was like the equivalent of a death. And now it seems like people get divorced like they're getting a new pair of shoes. What do you say, Jim?
Well, I personally know coaches that actually help people move through guilt and shame. And that's because those are some of the lower emotions that don't really get us to where we want to be. If you want to move to a loving, higher relationship, you're going to have to let go of some of those emotions.
Okay, thanks for that perspective, Jim. And Fila, I will turn to you. Is it good to let go of those emotions, or maybe it's those emotions of guilt and shame and disgrace that keeps you in a troubled relationship that perhaps is having a rocky patch and that things just have to be worked out a little bit?
Well, what I think is that we have more options now. So our parents were forced to stay in their relationships, and even though the divorce rate might have been lower, it doesn't mean that they had any overall happiness. So it gives us options. I don't believe that we should hold on to any guilt and shame because it doesn't serve us in any way, but there needs to be a balance of emotions. You can't just throw everything out of the window. You have to take it one step at a time. And even though we're in a new generation, 1 or 2 failed relationships is going to teach you the same lessons that your parents learned.
Okay, I'm going to turn now to our DC connection, Esther Boykin. Esther, hopefully you've been hearing our conversation, and Fila just made a good point. I was saying the guilt and shame sometimes keeps you in a relationship, but then we saw a lot of tortured couples who stayed in a relationship because of societal pressures. What say you about the state of relationships, love and marriage and everything else in 2016?
Well, I certainly agree with that position. I think that there's no benefit to shame and guilt keeping somebody in a relationship and feeling stuck, because that doesn't help us to sort of work through the issues. It's interesting because I think that while the perception is commitment is not alive and well, that's not really the experience I see in my office. I do see people waiting longer because we've developed this period of time where people understand that, yes, I can get a divorce, but they've also lived through that. And so we have a generation who really understands that divorce can be just as painful as staying in a poor relationship.
Okay.
And so I think people are waiting longer to find that one and settle down.
Faye, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the spiritual and religious aspect of this as an ordained minister. Do you feel that's missing in a lot of relationships nowadays? I mean, if I look back at traditional marriages, they were amongst people of the same religion, people who had deeply held religious beliefs and convictions, and that was sort of the glue that kept you together. As our society becomes more secular, I think you're seeing people drift apart more easily.
Sure, because you don't have, as you stated, that glue that holds people together. People are looking to find themselves, to see what's true for them, what's really in their heart. And if they're in a relationship where they're not feeling supported by their partner, then they're looking for their growth. Their partner may not be growing. And then it's just a natural, organic separation that occurs. When you know what is true for you, what your connection is to your God, your spirit, your divine, the universe, Joe the hamburger maker, whatever you want to call it, then you feel more present within yourself. You stay grounded, you stay connected, and you can have the conversations that you need to have within the relationship to move forward during any times that may be troubling.
Deb, let me talk to you about your book a little bit, Relationship Reboot. What do you mean by that?
Well, I found the same thing, that people are running to divorce court too quickly and rarely really giving it a good effort to solve the problems that they bump into, whether it's 3 months or 30 years down the road. So this is really a program for helping them to learn the skills, to reboot their relationship, to kind of try to get it back together, to have the other option of not getting divorced, not giving up so quickly. And if they had a good foundation, to get back to that good foundation that they once had. And I really do feel there's hope for any couple. It doesn't matter how many decades they've been miserable. If they're willing to work and commit to it, there are skills that are very easy to learn that can really help them move on.
And for a lot of people, if they were in love once and there was an attraction once, there has to be something there that brought them together in the first place. And unless so many horrible and despicable things have transpired since, you can go back and find that love, hopefully. I think that's what most therapists will ask you. Can you remember the last time you were happy in this relationship?
Absolutely.
Obviously, I've been in couples therapy. Let's turn to Jimmy right now. Jimmy, tell me about Valentine's weekend. Is this a good time to reboot, rekindle our loves?
Oh, absolutely. So a year ago today, I brought people together at a party called Ember. It was an event dedicated to February being an entire month of love, and with the intention to people come together, share stories, and talk about the things that really matter in life, this authentic relating, the going deeper and deeper and deeper, to fully experience the things like guilt, shame, and work your way up to commitment and doing and being and ultimately love. So in my book, I talk about these natural cycles, the ups and downs that contribute to our lives, that are our lives. But really, when you find that you embrace all of those, the highs and the lows equally, you can really live your best life now. And that's what I hope people do.
That sounds like good advice, Jimmy. Fila, let me talk a little bit about Valentine's Day. I feel it's a very gender-biased holiday. A lot of pressure on us men. We better get the roses, the chocolates, the gift certificates, the trips, or we're in trouble. It's kind of a one-sided holiday, right?
It used to be, but it's changing a lot. Yeah, it's changing a lot, and things are really gender neutral. And I think what's important to know is that people are looking for more. So not everyone wants just the roses and the flowers. And because this is such a great day for people to kind of be in the spirit of love, it's a great time for you to do something for yourself, not just the normal chocolate, roses things. It's a great time to sort of get into that energy of loving yourself, loving your partner in a way that's not so generic. So you don't have to choose to go the same old route if you don't want to.
I think you just called me generic. That's okay. Let's turn to Esther. I've been insulted by a lot of people here today. I'm sick of it. Tell me about your best advice for a couple looking to have a wonderful Valentine's celebration this weekend and perhaps find that love that was once there. Go ahead.
Lower the expectations. I think that's the first thing, is because we get a lot of messages that it needs to be big romance, flowers and chocolates and weekends away. And the truth is that getting back to what makes you feel loved in your relationship.
Okay.
You know, if my husband shows up with a really good cup of espresso, it works.
Gotcha. But I say, Faye, if the guy doesn't get those roses and doesn't get those chocolates and doesn't offer to take her on a trip, all of a sudden those fake trappings of love will seem very significant.
Well, my point of view on this is if he shows up a day before or a day after with the intention of still processing the holiday, his intention is good.
Right. So you're saying the love needs to be more than just on February 14th.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
The conformity to the hallmark day of love should be year-round.
Okay. Well, that would be an ideal, Deb, if we could commit ourselves to our relationships. And I think that's probably part of the problem with relationships, is that when you're courting someone, you're trying to get him or her. But once you're married, you feel like you're stuck with him or her. Right?
And why
As a cynic, I can say that.
Yeah, why did we lower our standard after the courting? You know, I think the effort should be there all of the time, you know, every single day, where you're checking in with each other every day and monitoring your relationship. I have to just tell you, I recall a 5-year-old telling me Valentine's Day he thought was the day that people were forced to give stuff to people they love.
I told you that when I was 5? Impossible. No, it does seem that way. But I'm telling you this, forget the roses, forget the chocolates, forget the card, particularly the card, you're in big trouble. I don't care, you can say it's gender neutral and none of this matters anymore, you still better do it, even if it's just a token. You can love her the other 364 days a year, but that one day, get the chocolates, get the roses, my best advice. Let's go and leave our last word to Esther. Esther, you're still with us. Tell us what your number one advice is to couples who want to keep their relationship young and healthy and vibrant and everlasting. Either she can't hear me or I stumped her. Maybe there is no answer. Okay, I'm going to thank our guests, Fila, Faye, Deb, Esther, and Jimmy as well for their advice on love and marriage. When we come back, they've discovered another planet. Boom, we're going to go right to the moon and beyond after this.